I had the joy recently of sitting on a beach and reading a book that was not for work. So nice. And I chose something light and fun. And I have to tell me, I love some Leanne Moriarty. And some of you may know her books. They've been made into shows like Big Little Lies and Nine Perfect Strangers. There's so much I like about it. She's just a great observer of people, and just it's a fun read. It's a light read. But she really writes her narcissistic characters really well in a very nuanced way. And she writes well about these relationships. Well, she had used an analogy, and I'd not heard of it before, not thought of it before, but I thought it was spectacular because I think it's a useful metaphor for any of you who are having to navigate a narcissistic relationship, especially a narcissistic relationship that you cannot get out of. So basically, her analogy relates to the universal experience that any of us face with a narcissistic person where we are trying to, if you will, make it work, even if it's just trying to make it work for the short term. For example, someone we work with or work with on a limited project. The challenge with narcissistic people is that we can't just keep fluffing them up in too heavy-handed a way. We can't give them too many heavy compliments or they're going to see through it. As much as people with narcissistic personalities are desperate for attention and validation, they are more socially perceptive and astute than you may think. Narcissistic people may not have lots of empathy, or certainly have, if they have it, it's a low level, but they can read a room or a person, especially when it's about them. So if we are too transparent and too effusive with our compliments, the narcissistic person will get suspicious. And because they compliment people to get what they want, they are assuming that you're doing that to them too. And they may think that they're being played if we are too extra with our validation. And at the same time, if we don't give them enough validation, then things also go wrong. And if we do anything in the midst of this that triggers their vulnerability, like criticism, like anything that they might even misread as a criticism, or tell a joke and they think that the joke is about them, then all hell breaks loose. So the analogy that she uses is that managing someone like this is in essence like dismantling a bomb. I read that sentence and I said, that's it. Managing a narcissistic person is like dismantling or diffusing a bomb. I don't know much about bomb diffusing, but at least when I've seen it in the movies, it seems like you have to move slowly, definitely can't rush it. You have to meticulously study the wires, understand how the bomb works, ensure that you don't agitate the bomb too much, lest it go off. You can't just go up to the bomb and pull out a bunch of wires and hope for the best. The read on diffusing or dismantling a bomb is that it's a careful, sensitive, technically informed balancing act. And if there's a timer on the bomb, you may have to do all of this careful, precise, dangerous work with the pressure of time. Sound like a narcissistic relationship? Yup. Her analogy of dismantling or diffusing a bomb perfectly captures what we have to do to keep people with these personality styles from exploding. We need to validate, but not too much, in case they feel that they're being played. You could put yourself down, but just a little, not too much, or they think that you're playing the victim. Then you have to be very careful in how you give them feedback in case they experience it as criticism. You have to be warm, but not too warm, so they don't think that you're treating them like a child. But you can't be too cold or too clipped or too abrupt, because then you're mean. It's dismantling a bomb. Make one mistake and then boom, the whole damn thing is going to explode. We often term or talk about being in a narcissistic relationship as being like walking on eggshells. And that's also a very apt analogy. But thinking of it as bomb diffusing is actually more accurate and captures more of what is happening, especially if you can't get out of the relationship. It's not just about walking carefully on tiptoes, watching every step you take. It's also about having to actively engage with the narcissistic person in a way that feeds their ego, but doesn't overfeed it, that keeps you as not being a threat, but also as not too passive. So yeah, to defuse a bomb, you are being hypervigilant and you are walking on tiptoes, but you are also having to balance a lot of other stuff at the same time, which is what would be involved in diffusing a bomb. Again, doing it quickly, doing it, doing it under time pressure, keeping it all steady, all of that. Now, some of you may think, screw this. I am not fluffing them and tiptoeing and putting myself down, but not doing it too much and being aware of not doing things too much or too little. I get that. That's fine. It really all comes down to your appetite for explosions. Some people tolerate them better than others. I know some folks who are not bothered by bombs going off, and that's fine. Those folks actually tend to be a bit more narcissism resistant, if you will. But for the rest of us, where the human explosion of the narcissistic person is a bit more than our nervous systems can endure, then we become expert bomb diffusers and actually do find that thin line more often than we realize. In fact, many people who have managed navigating narcissistic relationships for many years and have had to raise children under these conditions or work under these conditions, often sadly, you kind of do have to develop nerves of steel, largely because every day you are moving through a situation of intense pressure that can blow at any time. Since most of us cannot get out of all of the narcissistic relationships that we are in, keeping this sort of bomb diffusing analogy or strategy close at hand can be very helpful. It can be very useful at work. If you are working with a narcissistic colleague or boss, it's about fluffing, but not too much fluffing. It's about letting the difficult colleague know that they are the expert, but not letting them know that too transparently. It's about complimenting the narcissistic partner so you can get through the deadline or the dinner party or the children's soccer game, but at just the right level so they don't ruin the event. It's about this optimized balance with the narcissistic parent or sibling or cousin so the holiday dinner or the family event doesn't go sideways. It's about constantly diffusing the bomb. However, even bomb diffusers need a day off. Especially bomb diffusers need a day off. And yet, in narcissistic relationships, we don't always get that. The constantly required level of attunement, balance, vigilance, monitoring, it's too much to do every day. It puts a real wear and tear on our health and on our health. And it can often be why self-abandonment ends up being such a central theme in these relationships. In order to forever be attuned to the incendiary device that is forever ticking in your house, you really do often find that you have to quit yourself to keep the bombs from exploding. I suppose the middle path in all of this is one of having agency and recognizing that on some days you do have to diffuse the bomb to get through something important or to protect people around you or to decrease the odds that, for example, the narcissistic co-parent in your life behaves like an ass when your kids have exams or have to get through a deadline, or you have to get through a deadline at work. To recognize that you can't devote your life to ensuring that the delicate tripwire won't be pulled, but you can choose your diffusing days strategically. Because this isn't as simple as just being vigilant, as walking on those proverbial eggshells. It's about being actively vigilant and the constant balance of fluff, but not too much fluff, means that once again, the narcissistic person they take center stage. And your stuff, your life, your needs, your schedule, your energy level is at best secondary. Choose your diffusing moments to get through what matters for you or for your kids or for the people you work with. But recognize that some days you may not be able to diffuse and the bomb will still go off. And hopefully the damage can be contained and you have some support to help you clean up. Even when we try to decenter the narcissistic folks, trying to avoid their explosions, their silent treatments, their passive-aggressive rage, it all still means that they get recentered as we keep sacrificing ourselves to keep the bomb from exploding. Ultimately, you can't win. Thanks again.